Just looking out for you.
Although this one dried out. So.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We will call the meeting to order. We are all present with the exception of Lisa is excused for tonight. And if you'd like to join me, we can have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And our first order of business is a report from our student council reps. And if you just want to introduce yourselves, tell us what grade you're in.
Hi, my name is Claudia Ryder. I'm in 11th grade, and I'm the upperclassman liaison.
I'm Piper Morgan. I'm the underclassman liaison, and I'm in 10th grade.
Great.
So I'll just kick it off with how homecoming week went. So basically, we started off with powder buff and powder puff games on Sunday, and that's always a lot of fun. And then during the week, we had our spirit days, and we had a great chunk of the student body that participated this year, and our freshmen really stepped up this year. It was really fun to see them actually participate. And we had our hypnotist on Wednesday, and that's just a great tradition that we do every year, and it's so fun to see just our fellow classmates make a fool of themselves on stage. And then on Friday, we had our parade and our pep assembly. And then we had the tailgate also on Friday, and it's just fun to see showcase all of the schools in our district, our elementary schools, our middle school, and our high school. And we also highlighted our limited edition group, which sang a few songs. Our dance team who is always phenomenal, and then our football team. And then we obviously won our football game on Friday. And on Saturday, every person in student council got up early, bright and early at 8 a.m., and we helped set up our decorations for our dance. And we had 600 plus students purchase a ticket, which was great. And then this past Saturday, during trick-or-treating, we participated in Trick or Treat for the Hungry, which is our partnership with the Ozaki Food Alliance. And 100% of our student council participated, which is awesome. We just went door to door collecting non-perishable items and canned goods for those in need. And we also participated with DECA and our Best Buddies organizing. And it was just a huge success. We had so much fun doing it. We can't wait to do it next year. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
I'm going to talk about the upcoming events. The main thing we have is Thanksograms, which if you don't know what it is, it's just a fun tradition that we have the students do to make positive notes to either staff or their friends, to say they're thankful for them and stuff like that. The student council members will sell them during resource or during lunch, usually in the upper cafe. And yeah, that's a fun tradition we always do. And then the other upcoming event we have is the blood drive, but that's not for a while, so I won't go into much detail. So I'll talk about that at the next meeting. But yeah, that's all.
Is Trick or Treat for the Hungry? Has there been any talk? You don't do it in Saukville, right? Just Port Washington?
Yeah, just Port Washington.
Maybe someday we could get Saukville involved in that?
I don't know. Yeah, probably.
Maybe something to bring up at one of your meetings.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for them?
It was fun. I had Batman at my house.
I was involved with a lot of it, but I would tell you that we were selling water at the dance, but it was, I know, very loud, and I know it went all the way till I think 11 o'clock is when, they said this was the first time ever that all the students pretty much stayed till 11. They said the songs got better and better in that last 45 minutes or something like that. I mean, would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, we had, this was the first time, since my freshman year, we had everyone, stay for the dance, and then all of the student body, helped, take down, even if they weren't in student council or not, which was awesome, so yeah.
You guys did great.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
It's a lot of work. Thank you.
Thanks, Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to committee updates and do, I think, Justin, you are first, Finance.
So yes, Yes, I called the meeting at 5:46 PM, and we exchanged proposals with the Port Washington-Saukville Education Association Negotiations Group in open session. And then we moved to closed session after that, and then came out at 5:48 PM. Then we had another motion to get back in, and then a past meeting was adjourned at 6:05 PM. I think that's it, right?
Then you have this like other meeting.
Oh, hang on one second. Sorry, it's been a long week, long day. So, and then we had the Monday, October 21st meeting last week, starting from 6 to 7:13 PM with committee members, myself, Karen, and Elise. Lisa with Brian excused. The meeting was called to order at 6 PM. Director Nettesheim reviewed the preliminary 2024-25 budget, and then we adjourned, seconded by Elisa, a motion to adjourn at 7:13 PM.
The curriculum committee met on Monday, October 21st, from 7:14 to 8:38 PM. The committee members, myself, Yvonne, Nicole, and Stephanie, and additional non-committee members, Sarah, Elisa, Karen, Justin, also present, Dr. McMahon, Brian Sutton, Sarah, Heidi, and Rachel. Meeting was called to order at 7:14. Sarah provided an update on Act 20, state reading law. Also an update on the Wisconsin Forward exam and iReady data. Principal Beardser then shared an update on ACT and advanced placement data. The meeting was adjourned at 8:38 PM.
Yes, policy also met on Monday, October 21st. We were the late night party. And we talked about an updated board bylaw 0160 meetings to make some updates to public comment and participation at board meetings. And then Brian Sutton also provided an update on some administrative guideline 5221.01, which is the procedure for selection, management, and reconsideration of library media center materials. And then Dr. McMahon and Sarah provided, Board President Sarah, presented some information on Neola policy services, which we will talk about later this meeting as well. And then we adjourned at 9:23 PM.
Thank you. And then other district-wide committees, has anyone met with their other district-wide committees?
Safety committee, we met last Monday, right? And I do, oops, sorry. And we're going to be updated in November, right, Brian? Am I remembering correctly? From administrators and how things are going in the building. Administrators had shared at their meeting last week. Drills have gone well. They've improved things, learning new things. Things are going very well. So it was a good, efficient meeting. We were there maybe, an hour, was it, Brian? We had sheriff department there, police department, right? Fire department was there. Saukville police department was there, so all's good.
Great. I think that's it for that. And then your upcoming board dates, we'll find those listed. And then we will move into consent agenda items that include board minutes, human resources, finance and human resources committee reports, curriculum reports, policy committee reports, business service reports. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? I will make a motion to approve consent agenda but I'd like to pull schedule of bills 10.1, please, and approve the rest.
Second.
Second by Yvonne, and we'll do a roll call, Heidi.
Yep. Starting with Yvonne.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Brian.
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
Kirsten.
Aye.
Justin.
Aye.
Nicole.
Aye.
And Stephanie.
Aye.
Motion passed. Thank you.
And then I will take a motion to approve just schedule of bills 10.1.
I will motion to approve that schedule of bills.
I'll second.
And we'll do a roll call.
Yep. Let's start with Stephanie on that.
Aye.
Yvonne.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Brian.
Aye.
Sarah.
Abstain.
Kirsten.
Aye.
Justin.
Aye.
And Nicole.
Aye.
Motion passed. Thank you.
Okay. You're up, Michael.
So for my superintendent report, a lot of good news to share to start. First, congratulations to Wisconsin State Music Convention participants this last weekend. Logan Williams and Madeline Sosolowinski had the opportunity to present and sing at the Wisconsin State Music Convention in the State Honors Mixed and Women choruses on Thursday, October 24th. So huge congratulations to those two students. Also, the WCDA State Honors Choir has been selected. These students will perform on January 10th and 11th at Lawrence University. So congratulations to Addie Dahl, Avery Johnson, and Jade Moses for the State Honors Treble Choir. WCDA State Honors Men's Choir, Ben Gust, will be performing on January 10th and 11th. And then the WCDA State Honors Contemporary A Cappella, Jakari Matthews, Tegan Zuro, and David Pionic. So congratulations to those students. As those complete, we'll attempt to bring those students back to the board so you can ask them questions and they can celebrate with us. So huge shout out to those students. Next up, National School Psychology Week. We attempt to honor these students at the board meeting prior to that, so we will not meet for a full board meeting before November 11th through the 15th, but we'll certainly put out things on social media and recognize our school psychologists that week. But wanted to make you aware that that's something that we want to make sure we honor each and every group. We've kind of set the tone so far this year to honor those groups. I'll hand out, I think this year it's popcorn, so we've partnered with Broadway Popcorn to hand that out the week that they're recognized. Another recognition week in the Port Washington-Saukville School District has been American Education Week, which will occur November 18th through the 22nd. We'll recognize schools by providing lunch to each school on one of those days, and then just send out some positive news to all staff to celebrate National American Education Week. Also, a quick update on the school perception survey, which those of you listening, you have until the 30th to submit your survey online, or you can mail it in anytime. We'll basically be collecting those through November 15th via mail. Currently, we're at 1,655 surveys, which represents about 75% of what was collected in 2014. So hopefully well on our pace to be very similar to the results we received in 2014 that led to a positive referendum at that point. But really looking to have the right amount of data for you to make that decision on November 25th. School Perceptions will be back with us that day to share all of that data to determine what they call a go or no-go for a referendum. So right now, looking like we have statistically significant information to make that decision. So look forward to sharing that on November 25th. Finally, actually two more, one that's not listed, but one that is listed. On Wednesday, we have over 60 community members signed up for a dinner and a show opportunity to see our Freaky Friday presentation on the final dress rehearsal, and we'll also be sharing a meal. It was restricted to individuals in our community 55 plus, but really giving them a chance to come in and see that show and celebrate with us. I will also be sure to put in a shameless plug to finish their survey when they go home if they haven't done so. But really excited to share. That's something that I've seen many other districts do to bring their senior community members in to see shows. So we'll do that for Freaky Friday on October 30th, and then when our middle school performs Little Mermaid Junior, we'll also do the same thing, hoping to get more We've been pitching this for around, I would say, 3 weeks, and so to get over 60, we're excited about. But a couple community groups have said that they'll be bringing a bus on November 20th, so hopefully have more participants on November 20th. So, and then finally, not on my agenda, but I certainly want to make a shout out to our boys cross-country team who qualified for state. The last time this group qualified was 2021, but this is the first time they've been sectional champs since 2017. So they will compete in Wisconsin Rapids next Saturday for a state championship. And then also we had 2 girls qualify individually. Ellie Kneffel and Parker Allen were 2 students that performed exceedingly well last week right here at our home course at Tendick Park. So really excited to share that. And then fall sports are slowly wrapping up. We'll have John come in November to kind of give an overview of fall sports. Football has one more game on Friday. They'll travel to Green Bay, Notre Dame for a tough matchup. I talked to Coach Bunyan about their historic comeback last Friday. I left at halftime and then saw the score at the end of the 4th quarter and was shocked after I put the kids to bed. So, so fall sports are wrapping up, really exciting things. I think that concludes my superintendent report. Any questions?
One question about the dinner and show. Has it been advertised like at the senior center?
We did. We reached out, we put up flyers, connected with their community coordinator.
Okay.
So
Great.
yes, yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody that wishes to make public comment? Seeing none, we will move, we'll move on to superintendent items, and the first one is action to accept a $5,000 restricted donation.
Yeah, so we've been started to bring this process of really acknowledging our donors and our gift, the great gifts that our community is giving to us. And so this is a restricted gift to the music program from Galia Gaib, or Gib, and really intended to better our music program and to celebrate that. So I want to certainly thank the family for the donation and recognize that. We'll follow up with a card, but wanting also for the board to recognize this and accept this gift restricted to our music program.
I would just like to say that it's really telling when we have citizens in our community who are donating their own personal money to our programs to maintain the excellent programs that we have. I think that we are reaching the people who we need to reach. I just makes me very proud because you know how I feel about the music program. So, and I just thank you for sharing this with us and thank you for making it public.
And we will, someone would like to make a motion on that?
Oh, then I will make that motion, I'm sorry, to accept the $5,000 restricted donation from, I don't want to mispronounce it, Galia Gaib, to the Port Washington-Saukville School District's music program as presented.
Second.
We can do a voice vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And next is the update on our safety drills that were conducted.
So state statute says that we have to conduct safety drills in our school twice a year. Also bring that information to the board. So we'll bring this to the board in closed session next month to go into more detail. But essentially you see those individual reports from Dunwoody, Lincoln, and Saukville. We had a chance to meet as a safety team to review this and really just problem solve on what we need to do to be better at this each and every time. So we have local police in attendance to give us feedback on what we can change and shift. And so it's just like we've been doing in schools for years as it relates to fire drills. Now we do that for school violence event drills, and then we reassess and have those conversations. And so we will bring that to the board in closed session in November. So just a quick update around that. There is a state statute that it has to be signed off within 30 days. So that's why we're bringing this information to the board this meeting. Our middle school and high school are completing these prior to the November meeting, but all of our elementaries have conducted these drills.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing it. At least in my memory, I don't remember seeing it in this format, and I appreciate that and some of the more specifics of each building. And I like to see that places where there is improvement needing to be made and how those improvements are going to be made. I'm just wondering, do we have any feedback on how this affects our students? And if there are ever students afterwards that need to talk about it, do our school psychs step in then? Do we have any information on that?
So I guess I would defer to Brian and maybe even our principals to see if we actually have students that come forward and need that. I guess the sad realization is this is a norm, and this has become a norm for kids that probably since early 2010s, we've been doing these drills on a regular occurrence, and our students have just become accustomed to them. And I think we all have, which is, I guess, scary to think about, but I still remember the first one I did as a principal years and years and years ago. We brought that to students, that if you feel uneasy or scared, we have those resources available. We have our school psychologists at the elementary, and then we have counselors at the middle school and high school. But I guess the reality is that kids are not needing it, but if we do, have we had any reach out, Brian, or principals?
I'm not aware of any. I don't know if the principals are aware of any.
I guess where I'm going is it expressed, like when we're doing these drills, is it verbalized, like, you know, if you are finding this difficult, this is who you should reach out to? Is that part of the drill, is talking to the students particularly? I guess I shouldn't say it's more elementary. I guess in my heart I feel like the elementary kids, but I guess it could be any level of kids that are having.
Yeah, we express that when we do each drill or training or whatever it might be. We also send a letter home to families indicating what days we were doing the particular drills on, so that families knew, and also let families know to reach out to the counselors or if they have any concerns. So it's all part of the communication. But I do have to say, I love you guys. Does a really good job with the educational piece of all of this, and they approach it at a very kid-friendly way. I've seen it done in other districts where it's maybe a little bit more aggressive, and that can lead to a little bit more of kids needing to go talk to somebody or being a little bit more concerned. So I think I love you guys. Does a really good job with that educational piece.
Thank you. That's what I was hoping to hear. Thanks for clarifying. So we'll see that come back in closed session.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to our first reading of revised board policy 0160.
This was referenced during our policy discussion, but Stephanie and Sarah did a lot of work on this, and we had a good discussion, but I'll turn it over to Stephanie to talk a little more in depth.
Yeah, so the revisions that we made were based on advice from our legal counsel, as well as trying to communicate a little bit clearer picture of if people from the community want to provide public comment, or there's also a section about suggesting agenda items in here as well that was refined. We're going to bring back the registration cards so that people can register to speak. And then probably the major change is we specified that there will be 30 minutes dedicated to public comment, and the board can vote to expand that, but each person will be limited to 3 minutes, and the total public comment won't exceed 30 minutes unless the board votes to exceed that. Those are the kind of high points of that policy and the revisions that were made. Did anyone have any comments? I thought the changes that we made from committee to tonight were all updated, but.
Yeah, I really appreciate the time you took to do this. I felt like it was confusing before for both the board and the public, and this gives it a good structure to work under. So thank you.
All right. So I will make a motion coming out of committee to approve the first reading of revised board bylaw 0160 meetings as presented.
And we can do a voice vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, motion carries. Look forward to second reading and getting that institutionalized. Then we are moving on to the report and action on license agreement with Neola. Michael?
Yes, so we brought this to policy. We've had some discussions over the last 4 months or so about policies and where to prioritize and focus our work. that work is significant. We did reach out to Neola, which is an organization that works with 80% of districts in the state of Wisconsin currently with adopting, approving, and working through policy. So Sarah, Stephanie, and I met with Neola to talk through what that would look like for the Fort Washington-Saukville School District and decided to then bring it to policy. The reality is that we've worked with Neola in the past and quickly realized that all of our coding, our bylaws, et cetera, as it relates to the current policies, were created by Neola in the late 90s. And we ceased to work with Neola in 2001. We've just had much of that. Obviously, a lot has changed since 2001. And some of those policies are needing some pretty urgent updating. And so we have made the decision, I guess, to bring it to the full board to approve what would be an agreement between us and Neola to essentially start to work with them from now until June 30th to adopt a whole new policy manual adopting Neola policies. You can see outlined on the screen what this looks like, what this entails. We also have shared the agreement with you as an update. If you didn't see the agreement, the one-time drafting fee of $28,250 is actually spread out on this year and next year, so we'll be paying $17,000 this year and around $11,000 next year. And then essentially that updated subscription fee around $27.50 is what we're currently paying to WASB for our policy work, except that WASB policy work really does involve still a lot of work from our policy committees. What we just referenced that Sarah and Stephanie did for the public comment was significant. Not to say that this is a cookie cutter, we'll still have say in that process, but really is a driven process on multiple fronts, their attorneys, their policy work. And so out of policy, we felt this was a next step for our board to really update a number of our policies that are needing some attention.
I would just like to say I was in on the meeting with Neola. I was very impressed with the scope of work that they provide. And while we don't take that dollar amount lightly, I just don't see any other way for us to get out of the hole that we're in with the amount of policies that we are non-compliant with. That really, it's important that we get those taken care of because we are non-compliant with quite a bit of our policy manual. I don't know that we need to go into all of the services, but there was some that were, like I said, the scope of their service in general, the 24/7 support, the face-to-face meetings, the kind of a warranty thing where if we are challenged on any of the policies that they have written, they will provide legal counsel to us. Currently, we are, just to take the public comment portion, we are spending a lot of money on our own attorneys looking at things where we're going to see a savings in that aspect by going with Neola and moving forward, our policies will be kept up by them with that yearly, which is not, a large amount of money being spent to keep us up to date so we don't see ourselves in the hole that we're currently in. So I was very impressed with Neola and the presentation and the services that they'll provide, but most importantly, it is so important for us to have those policies in the shape that they should be in and not where they are right now.
And am I remembering correctly, this covers not just like our state statute stuff, but also federal statutes as well. So
Correct.
we're covered very well.
Right. And like Michael said, it's not necessarily cookie cutter. They will there's leeway for us to make them our own, much like we did with the public comment. They may give us 3 versions and we will choose the one that fits us best, and that does not mean that we can't then further customize those for our own needs. So while they are providing the template that is up to date with state and federal guidelines and standards and law, we still have the ability to make those our own.
So the one-time fee is, we're just doing that once to get everything up to date. So that's the plan for this year. Then the subscription fee per year, which you said we were paying already to WASB. So we're not using WASB for that now?
After that, we would stop working.
Okay. And then also, savings you said from legal fees, will that also be included in the face-to-face meetings and time we get with the subscription?
That is part of that dollar amount that we see, yeah.
Okay.
And, but we're going to just realize a savings overall from not have, every time we do something, not having to go to our own attorneys
Exactly.
to make sure.
Yeah. And then I would think too, because I know we used Heidi's time a lot to work on updating policies, so that'll save her time for something else too.
And the timeline is, we really, it's aggressive, but July 1 is the timeline to have everything up to date. It's going to be a lot of work on the front end, but they have said, and Michael has said, that afterwards, we probably will only need maybe 2 policy meetings a year after that moving forward, and that will be those updates that we'll see. But it won't be the kind of time that we've been trying to fit in over the last 3 years or so, updating things. But, so it's an aggressive timeline, but we're going to do it by July 1. We're going to have it in place, and we're going to approve that entire new policy manual and be moving into the school year, next school year, with a completely updated policy
That's great.
manual.
Thanks for doing that.
And Sarah, they'll also help us switch it over on our website, right?
There's a lot of there's
Right?
a lot of
So there's a
clerical fees.
lot
Yeah, I
in
mean,
that.
a lot of that, it's in that dollar amount, the
Yeah.
clerical fees that are involved. Right, there won't be a lot of work on our end. There is a lot included. That scope of work that's included in that 28 is everything, basically.
Cool
Besides
beans.
us besides our time that it will take. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that
Oh.
dollar amount covered in this year's budget, next year's budget?
It is in this year's, and it would be then in next year's as well.
Thank you.
And just another thing I wanted to just say about that scope of service, there are items too, like they will look over all of our staff handbooks, our employee handbooks, so it's not just our policies, there's a lot more involved that's included in that. All of our forms that our families get, they will look over all of those and make sure that those are all compliant. Am I missing anything? The forms, the employee handbooks?
Sarah, I just wanted to mention that they go through and make sure everything is congruent. Like if one policy says this, then the AG, they'll work with Michael to make sure that the administrative guidelines also reflect that same language. So it'll just be a lot more consistent across everything as well.
Annual notices, they will go over all of those, make sure that we are compliant with all of our annual notices, similar, to kind of what we did tonight with the safety, asbestos, like all those annual notices that we have to approve, that's part of the scope of service also. So I am extremely excited. I know it'll be a lot of work on our end, but I am thrilled this is happening, and I can't wait for it to be done. Is there any other questions about it? Then we do need a motion to approve the agreement.
I will make a motion to approve the license agreement with Neola Incorporated for bylaws, policies, and administrative guideline development services, digital publishing platform, and consultation as presented.
I'll second.
And we'll need a roll call, Heidi?
Starting with Kirsten?
Aye.
I was like, which one do I? Justin?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Yvonne? Aye. Karen?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
And Sarah?
Aye.
Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Then we will move on to our finance items and our report on open enrollment, Mel.
All right, so I think I just covered a lot of this. However, I do want to open up, I just get the hard numbers for this year for open enrollment out and open enroll in. I know that we touched a lot on the open enroll out. So we have 160 students coming in and we have 185 going out. So we do get to count the 185 on our on our resident enrollment pupil count. We do not count the open enrolled in. That comes in the form of above and beyond the revenue limit as open enroll tuition reimbursement or tuition open enrollment in funding, which we saw on the pie chart in the budget presentation. Not much else to go over on open enrollment. If there are any other questions. One of the things we are doing, just so everybody's aware, we are looking into various surveys. And we mentioned it last time, but I want to touch base a little bit. We are asking each municipality for those permits for new construction, new houses. We do have Saukville's back. We do not have the other three yet. And that will tell us how many houses are being built over the last 10 years every year.
So the municipalities, do you mean like the town and the city and then the town of Port? Okay.
The goal would be to really determine when houses are built, when is that putting belly buttons in seats? And so determining when we see housing influx, if we can then anticipate more growth as we look at declining enrollment, when can we anticipate increasing enrollment? If we see housing in Saukville out on 33, when will that end up with seats, students at Saukville? So wanting to look and explore that.
Then we'll move on to the report and the action on third Friday.
Okay, so this is the annual report that we take to the board. This is just providing the annual pupil count. So you have the numbers in there, total count 2,441 for total count for amended pupil. We've had some fluctuations just with students. This happens every year, so we typically amend it at least once. Pupil count is one of those tricky situations or tricky processes that we thought maybe a student was here, they're not here, and then we have to work with other school districts to make sure that they're actually there versus here and back and forth. So this is the report submitted, and we always get the signatures of the board on that, and there will be another pupil count coming in January.
Can I ask a quick question on the count? So kind of thinking back to the last slideshow where we saw that Saukville had a higher than the other elementary schools out. Does that, so when someone, a non-resident comes here, do they get to pick which school they go to, or is it just wherever there's space? So I also noticed that Saukville has the highest non-resident belly buttons and seat count. Is that just because there's more space there, or are people requesting Saukville Elementary?
Yeah, typically it's where we have room. So
Okay.
we establish that.
Okay, thank you.
As a clarifier, on an open enrollment form, you can clarify if you want a specific school. Ultimately, we would be able to say, this is where we have room, where we won't see an increase in students-teacher ratio or increase in FTE. We essentially would put that within the building structure, and Saukville is that currently.
I'll motion to approve the DPI third Friday pupil count report for the 24-25 school year as presented.
I'll second. Aye.
I don't have my thingy up. An update on the Act 20 reading law.
Turn over to Sarah and a little bit of Rachel, a little bit of AP and ACT data, but I'll turn over to Sarah to talk through Act 20 and the most up-to-date forward ACT.
All right. So we will start with our Act 20. During committee, we had lots of really great questions and lots of clarifications, so we'll just kind of do a review because I know that most of you were there. But for our Act 20 updates, so Act 20, kind of the starting out with what is it, right? It's a law that was passed in 2023 that aims to ensure that all Wisconsin public school students can read proficiently by the end of third grade. Third grade is an indicator for future success in many areas, so that's where that grade level came from. So the law is going partially into effect this school year, and then full implementation is planned for next year. The DPI is sort of gradually moving schools into this. It's also an unfunded mandate, which we talked about. So as a district, we have to determine how we are going to pay for the requirements of the law without additional funding from the state for the most part. So in general, with Act 20, these are four of the kind of core components that we are working on, or that are required. So it requires for all schools to provide science-based early literacy instruction, reading readiness screener, reading plans, and required training components for teachers and administrators. So to look at that in a little bit more detail, I also want to explain what we are doing here in Port Washington to meet these requirements. So for the science-based early literacy instruction, 2 years ago, we adopted My View, My Perspectives, which are the SAVIS ELA curriculums for kindergarten through 8th grade. Those are highly aligned, and as well as Haggerty, which is a resource that is kind of for some of the early literacy provided to our younger students. And these are all science of reading aligned and core instructional resources. So when you see that term Tier 1, what that refers to is this is the instruction for all students before any potential reteaching or interventions would take place. Our ultimate goal, and the ultimate goal of all of our classes, is that 80% of our students will achieve proficiency in learning that standard that first time through Tier 1 core resource. The reading readiness screener and the timelines. Ames Web was the screener that was selected by the DPI, so that is something that the DPI provides for us. We are lucky in that our district was already using Ames Web for some things, so it's not as much of a learning curve as we're hearing are coming from other districts. But all of our teachers, because some of our teachers are currently trained, all of our teachers will be trained on how to use the screener in our December PD day. And then, this is the more cumbersome of the requirements, are the required reading plans for any students, kindergarten through 3rd grade, who score below the 25th percentile on that screener. So a screener basically does an overview of students and their skills. And if a student scores below that 25th percentile, there is a requirement that we have a plan in place to help support those students. And it's very specific. We include families on that, include everyone who needs to be part of that reading, that plan for that student. What we do at that point is we provide an additional assessment that really digs into some of those specific skills. So that it helps us to create those plans. Now, what I will say is we are very lucky in that a lot of the really great work that our teachers and our strategists and our support, everyone does, is we do a lot of this already we do this already for our students. The only difference is we have to put it into a specific plan that goes, and forms that go out. But it will not be anything different except for the documentation of the things that we're already doing. So I think that's good news. Because we already are doing really great things when we provide intervention for our students. And then the kind of final piece of this, that it requires a training for our staff and our principals. So our teachers throughout this school year will be using in-service days to complete a training, which we're doing through Cox Campus. There's a few options that the state allows for this training. So our staff has been and will continue to do pieces at each in-service day. So we have time set aside during the in-service day for them to do the training. And then they'll meet for approximately an hour in grade level teams to kind of talk through it, ask questions. And it's really great. They have started to make some commitments to shifts in instruction. So things that they're going to keep doing, things that they're going to shift and do even better. So we're really excited. The conversations have been absolutely incredible. So while it's unfunded, which is frustrating, the positive is it's really great professional development and professional learning. And then our building principals soon will be starting a very intensive training, which is also a requirement of that. So our elementary building principals and then a few of our reading specialists will be digging in and doing a leadership training around that so that they can better support the teachers who will be implementing the new training into their classrooms. So that is our overview on Act 20. Any questions? All right.
We will then move on to update on the ACT Advanced Placement and Wisconsin Forward data.
Okay. So we dug a lot into this in the committee meeting. So a lot of what I'm going to be presenting is an overview of a lot of that individual data that we looked at. We also want to make sure that we all are an understanding of what each of these assessments are and how we use them. So we have our Forward exam, which is a large-scale standardized achievement test, and it is designed to assess students' knowledge based on our Wisconsin academic standards. So we teach to the Wisconsin academic standards here. You guys approved those in all of the content areas at the beginning of the year, and that's what we align our instruction to. The Forward exam covers ELA in grades 3 through 8, mathematics grades 3 through 8, and then we assess students in science in grades 4 and 8, and then social studies for grades 4, 8, and 10. So there are some changes made to the Forward exam this year that are somewhat significant compared to previous years. So one that is a little less significant, but it is the labels of our performance categories. So in previous years on this assessment, it was advanced, proficient, basic, and below basic. They've updated those terms to advanced, meeting, approaching, developing. I think it's a great change, a great shift. I think it's more realistic and to what it is that we are measuring and how the students are performing. The part that's, again, more significant is that the benchmark cut scores, and what that means is these are boundaries between one category of performance and the next, higher or lower category. They have also changed. So as a result, students with similar scores to previous years may be placed in a higher category. So this was, again, decided by the state. It cites many reasons for them. One of the main reason is that they believe that the current assessments was updated over the last couple of years to newly updated standards. So they believe that the assessment is better aligned to the standards, the new cut scores. But the hard part for us is it means that we cannot simply compare last year's results to this year's results. So we have to use all of that data, but understand that they're really two different tests, two different standards and benchmarks for measurement. So it does make things a little bit harder for us. It also can give some data that seems a bit unique in that you could potentially score lower this year than last year, but yet be in a higher category. So all that really means, though, is we just have to be cognizant of that, in that really it's the great part about this is we use lots of data. And just having a measurement to see which kids are in which category is important, and we use that information. But when we dig down deeper into data, that's what's extremely helpful for us, because we can really understand skill by skill what students need, and that's the important part of the data. So just some overviews, since we looked at lots and lots of information over the last few months. Just an overview of, this is our ELA breakdowns by building. The blue on the left there is our students that would be advanced, and then the aqua, I should say, and then, oh, it looks very different on that screen than it does on mine. What would be the purple up there is meeting, and then the blue on the left is advanced. And so our goal is to get all of our students to that meeting, that proficient level. So you can see that's where kind of the data lies when we take a look at our ELA breakdowns through the 3 elementaries and the middle school for ELA. And then for math, that same thing. Remember, our goal is to get into the purple and the blue. And so we have our overall scores. So what does that mean? This was a summary of some of those things that we talked about in the meetings last week, is that we are consistently outperforming the state average in both ELA and math, so that's a celebration. Our trend lines in reading across grade levels have either maintained or improved, so that's another area for celebration. And in all grade levels, there is a rebound in reading and math scores post-COVID. So that's a great thing. So nearly everyone took a dip right after COVID, but nearly all of our grade levels have improved more than our pre-COVID level performance. So that's a positive. In some grade levels, though, we see the gap between the state average and our district shrink. And so when we're talking about our areas for growth, that's something we want to keep an eye on as we work towards full implementation of our ELA standards in kindergarten through 8th. So as mentioned, it's very common for data to dip when you implement new materials. It sounds a little strange, but when a new material comes in and we are learning how to use it, also with our materials, that there is a rigor level that's higher than the previous materials that we used, which is really good, but it's still a little bit of a shift for the teachers and for the students as we make that transition. So we can say, though, a celebration is our scores have not dipped, which is great. They've maintained, so that is a win. So this is good. But we also want to see now, especially starting next year, which will be our third year of implementation, we want to see those scores start to improve consistently. So that will be an area we're working on. iReady, we're not going to look at the specific data of this, but I wanted to also mention this because we talked about another, what we call local assessment that we use. And iReady is an assessment that helps teachers identify strengths and areas for improvement in reading and math. It is an assessment that's adaptive, which means it will ask students some questions, and then it will start to adapt the level of rigor of the questions based on how the students are doing. So if they answer a few correctly in a row, then it's going to up that level of difficulty. That way, the students aren't going to feel completely frustrated as they go through lots and lots of questions that they potentially don't know. But it gives us a more accurate idea as we move our way up of how students are performing in math and ELA. It helps us identify students who need help with specific skills, and this is that really great part, because the Forward can give us some general data. We can dig into some specific skills, but it's a lot easier when we use an assessment like iReady, because it will help us dig down into very specific details. It helps us connect our tools that we're using with goals, and we can monitor the growth throughout the year. That's the nice part about these assessments compared to the big assessments like Forward or ACT, which take a long time for students to take. These are ones that we can do in a relatively short amount of time. We do this in the fall, we do this in the winter, and we do this in the spring. And it helps us to see a lot of things, and then we compare that also to our Forward data, to our ACT data. That way we have lots of points of data. So when we take a look at what is being assessed, those are the categories for, on the left would be our ELA, and our right would be the math. And when we think about, or how we use iReady, that is used in kindergarten through 8th grade for both, and then we use that also in 9th grade for reading. So what has the data told us with iReady in general? How are we using it? It tells us we need to continue to implement our new ELA resources with fidelity, which means specific commitments, common practices, making sure that every building and all the grade levels understand what they're teaching, what comes before them, what comes after them, et cetera. And we expect to see growth as students start to work through that curriculum now, as I mentioned before. So the great part is we're seeing that same kind of information that helps us support what we were seeing on the Forward exam. What the math is telling us that there is adding on to the data that we already have, that we need an improved Tier 1 universal math resource, or likely will need a universal Tier 1 math resource. And again, as I mentioned before, that Tier 1 universal means that core resource that every student's getting as their first run through in the classroom with their core teacher, excuse me. And we need to get instruction and resources that are aligned to grade level expectations. What we are finding is that our math resources currently are probably not teaching to grade level, and that's why we are not seeing growth in math. Or at the rate in which we want to see growth. Our current resources then are not supporting that. So this will support the fact that we are starting next week with a math audit. So for our kindergarten through 12th grade, we have CESA 6 coming in to do an audit of our math instruction, of our math resources, just our math programming in general. And they're going to provide us with some feedback on what the best ways are to improve that. Great, so for the ACT data. Oh, yes, please, I'm sorry.
Question about
Yep.
math. So it's realistic, through our audit, it's realistic to assume that by next school year, we could have a new math resource in place?
Yes, absolutely. If that data comes back to indicate that we are in need of a core universal resource, as we've already had some discussions and have started to talk about ways in which that can happen through different financial means to make sure that if it's supported and approved by the board, that yes, we could take a look at it. But as far as a timeline to do it, absolutely, we could do that. And I think the feedback we've gotten from the staff is that they are very interested in digging into a new core resource because they are highly aware that what we're using is probably not the best resource.
And the accompanying PD, we have enough time so that that isn't rushed before the beginning of next school year?
Yep, absolutely. It's a great question to ask, because I know that sometimes, we know that especially like elementary and middle school has just recently adopted ELA curriculum. So we're very cognizant of that and making sure that there's enough support for students or teachers so they can get that support to be ready to implement that for the new year.
Why CISA 6 and not like 1 or 7? 7 is pretty strong in mathematics, and we belong to 1.
Yep. Let Michael answer that.
Yeah, twofold. CISA 6 and Sarah Fleischman had been in the district recently in the last 5 years. Sarah has done math audits across the state, and we've worked with Sarah and has some base and level knowledge that helped increase the timeline and how quickly they could do this audit. And so Sarah is a part of this audit as well. I'd reached out to CISA 6 and CISA 1, who have the organization we're working with. CISA 1 is doing some things around strategic planning with us, and so this was just a good fit and also fit within their timeline that they were able to turn it around fast enough for us to essentially bring what could be course updates to our high school scope and sequence by December to get them in the course book, that really they were able to meet our timeliness around this and have background knowledge with us. But great question.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And then for our ACT data, just kind of an overview, is we have pre-ACT secure and our ACT. So I don't know how much we've talked about the pre-ACT, but that is also an assessment that is given to our 9th and 10th graders, and it is aligned with the ACT. Same areas, kind of very similar testing situation. So the nice part about this is it does give us that data and that feedback, but it also is setting students up for that 11th grade ACT assessment, which we do use as our Wisconsin assessment, but it's also an assessment that kids can use, or our students can use for college and applying to colleges. So we want to make sure that they are the best prepared as they can be, not only with providing us data, but also using that for college entrance. And our ACT with writing is that summative assessment. This is sort of that culminating assessment that our students take in our district. And the writing measures the skills, or the ACT with writing measures skills and knowledge students have learned in English, reading, math, and science. And then it predicts, the other piece is it predicts student readiness for college level work. So as we are kind of thinking about that, some general overviews is in the red there is the state composite scores for the ACT, state average, and then the blue there is Port Washington-Saukville. And so basically what we can kind of see in general is that there is kind of consistency across the board at the state level and consistency across the board with us as far as our composite scores. If we take a look at like 2020, so the ACT didn't have a COVID year because the students took the ACT and like days later we went on lockdown. So I don't know if that's a positive, but we got that assessment out, done before the lockdown happened. But when we can see that 2021, there was a dip of about a point, but that's what we kind of saw in the state as well. So I would say then, we've bounced back from that. When we take a look at our ELA, we kind of see something similar. We did bounce back. We have bounced back from the dip that everyone has seen post-COVID. But in general, when we look at that line, we can see that's pretty consistent across the board. We have been pretty consistent with ELA, and the same is true with math. We've been pretty consistent with our math performance as well. And again, when we look at this, why it's important to look at these, it's that culmination of everything that's done here, kindergarten through 12th grade. Now, the consistency is good, but as we kind of see, this is the breakdown if we want to see our difference between state average with those numbers is, and the top score for writing, or for each category is a 36, top score for writing is a 12. But we're doing great, we're outperforming the state, which is a positive. But when we take a look at this is an area, I think, for growth. When we are looking at what's called the college and career readiness benchmarks, you can see on the right-hand side, I just put that little graph so you can see what the ACT considers college ready in the different score areas of the breakdown of the ACT. So on this particular graph, we can see that 54.5% of our students would be considered college ready on the ACT, according to the ACT. Now, this is not the end-all be-all. This is not the only indicator that we have when we have lots of things that we're working on besides the ACT. But I think this is a great area to focus on for growth. Because even though all of our students we don't expect all of our students to be going to college, I think that preparing them to be college ready is a great goal and it's an important goal. Because even if our students go into the workforce, they're going to be highly prepared. And what we have found is, most people throughout their career at some point are going to go back and get additional training. They might go back to school. And we want to make sure that whether it's now or whether it's 20 years in the future, that students are prepared to be able to do that.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
If a student were to retake the ACT for their, at their own expense and benefit, this does not reflect that.
That is correct. That is correct.
So for some students, this might be
Absolutely.
their first time taking it, and they did not get the score that they wanted, and they
Correct.
can retake it and get a higher score, and this doesn't reflect that.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep. That is correct. And that is common with a lot of students. That might be great data to pull out for the future and see how many of our students did that.
Yeah.
I agree. And a lot of them will do that in 12th grade, so they're going to have a whole nother year of learning.
And ideally, where do you want these percentages to be? Like, have you be compared to other communities too in the area?
Well, I would love it to be 100%.
Okay,
But,
that is a good answer.
yeah. So I think that part of it is growth over time. We don't expect this to jump up a lot, but compared to other districts, I can't answer that at this point. Sorry, new to the area, haven't dug into those yet.
I would say, though, as you look at categories, and as you look at slide 16 and then slide 17, as it relates to our local data and it compares to ELA, that more of our students are already college ready at ELA, but with the college readiness of math being at 22 and our average being at 20, that is just another indication that math is a need for us. And so those same students that are showing college readiness in ELA, those same students are not ready in math. I think that's connected to why we have to really dig into math. 50% of the ACT is middle school level algebra questions that if you can answer half of the ACT, you are considered college ready, and half of the ACT is middle school level algebra.
So overall, I've kind of mentioned most of this already, but we've consistently outperforming the state average in all of the ACT subject areas. We just put the math and the ELA kind of focus area, but we were in all the areas. We have maintained achievement levels across many years, which is a great thing. We haven't dipped. But we are not meeting the college level benchmarks in any of the ACT subject areas, so I think that's important. We have not increased student performance on the ACT for about 7 years. We had that dip and we went back up, but we'd love to see that go up. And we need to increase our student readiness, or we want to increase our student readiness benchmarks for all areas. So, as I said, we want to make sure all of our students are prepared at any point to go on. So, I think there's definitely celebrations in there, but the exciting part is we do have room for growth as well. So, kind of one piece before we kind of look at the ACT data that we talked about. There's a lot of words on here, but I used it to kind of share with you, so that you can dig into that, because we had some questions asked about this, which were really great questions. And we just wanted to clarify kind of the main ways that we use data. So all those data points that we've looked at up to this point show us a lot about our programs, our resources, our instruction. We look across grade levels to see how are we performing in those areas, and that can we better use our resource? Can we have a better impact on instruction? And then when we use the cohort trends, which was that kind of final piece that we looked at, these are used to ensure that what are we best meeting the needs of that certain student group, and are we seeing consistent growth over time? So we use that data in two different ways, but each of them should inform us to know if what we're doing is working and how well it's working. Oops, excuse me. So the overview, again, the many pieces of data that we've looked at previously. In general, what we see is across the board, we saw some significant dips during and after COVID. Our current high school cohorts have not totally recovered from pre-COVID levels in ELA. And so while I wouldn't say that's completely unique to us, I think that's an important area, potential area for growth. Our middle school and elementary cohorts have seen slight growth over the last few years in ELA. We'd like to see that more, and we anticipate we will see that more with our new resources implemented fully. Our elementary cohorts' performance has remained flat over the last few years in math. And again, there's another indicator that we really want to take a look at our resources and how those are working for us or not working for us. And then our high school, middle school cohorts have all decreased, in some cases significantly, in math performance over the years, which again, just another indicator that this is an area of focus for us, for sure. So the action needed, it's not different than any of the other data that I've shared. We're seeing that consistency. But the nice part is taking all of these different data sets, they're all telling us the same thing. So I think that's really important, that we're not seeing any weird outliers anywhere, that everything is indicating kind of those same pieces for us, which is good news because it gives us a lot of great information and lots of pieces of support to show that there's a reason for our focus areas and to continue to implement. Again, we appreciate the commitment that the district made to the ELA resources. We just want to make sure that we're using them the way in which they're intended to be used to in the best possible way, which we're absolutely seeing that start to happen. So, okay, AP testing. Thank you. We just grabbed a couple of the overview kind of slides last time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. All right, so just to recap again on advanced placement classes that we offer here at the high school. So AP classes are courses, college-level courses that can be taken, and then exams by students that if they score a certain score or above, they can then earn college credit, which in essence could also have them skipping out of intro classes and or saving time and money in the process. And those are some of those rigorous courses that we offer here at PWHS. In terms of total number of students who have participated in our AP courses, you can see that that stayed relatively consistent. And as I had mentioned to committee last week, I pulled the last 3 years because I've been here 3 years, so we went with 3 years. So those are the 3 years time that I've either been here or was just starting. Number of exams taken, again, that has stayed relatively consistent for us. Students scoring a 3 or more, that's the number that's looked at in terms of earning college credit. It might go towards one's major. It might go towards an elective. It really depends on the institution and how they want to handle that, but certainly, again, towards their college. And then you can see the total number of students, what percentage of those students who took those tests did in fact pass a test. So 158 out of those 186 students got a 3 or better on at least one exam, so that's 85%. Please note that I used my own personal story that you can get a 1 or a 2 and still be college ready because, well, I'm sitting in front of you with multiple degrees, so it can in fact happen. But we want to give folks that rigor and that opportunity, and certainly for one's own reading, they can check out the impacts of the AP and the exams there. In terms of then the information on the right deals with our AP scholars. So those are just students that received a 3 or better on 3 or more exams, a 3.25 on 4 or more of 4, and you have to take at least 4 exams, or 3.5, excuse me, and then that distinguished mark is getting into 3.5. Scholars, then you can see that we've had students that have done well, meaning they have taken multiple exams, having to get certain scores to honors, distinction, et cetera. So that's just a credit to our kids taking those courses and scoring in them well. But certainly the AP site will explain those better than I probably just did right now, but 3.25, and 3.5s. And then in terms of the achievement award that AP started giving out in October of 2023, just to note that when it pulled our data from last year, it didn't pull anything. It was the fun, I think, transition between Power School and Infinite Campus that you have to make sure your classes are coded correctly. So we're very thankful to have data coordinators to make sure that that's pulling accurately. So starting this school year, we earned a bronze award. And we see a glow for us that 25% or more of our students, in fact, it's 38%, scored at least 1 3 or better. And so that many students are able to earn some college credits. A grow area for us is to move out of bronze and into silver when it comes to that area where we have the number of students taking those college culture, AKA take the test. So taking at least 1 AP exam. We had 48% of our students. We like to get that to 50% or higher. And then just a note on college optimism, that's just 2% or more of the graduating cohort took 5 or more AP exams. You can see that we're at 7%, so we're actually close to getting gold in that area as well. In terms of glows and grows or plus deltas, We have 16 AP courses offered this past school year, or this current school year, this past school year, sorry, it's 2024 right now. That was last year, 2023-24, so 16 then. And that we have 25% or more of our students scoring a 3 or higher on at least one of those exams. Again, that was our area in which we earned a gold in that spot. So that's certainly something for us to be proud. Then in terms of growth, we'd like to see more, ultimately that is saying we want to see more kids take the test and pass the test. And so 79% of our students took the exam and then 74% passed. You know, what would that look like to up it 5%? So get up to 84% of students passing, or excuse me, taking an exam. So basically, fast math, if every AP class could have one more student taking it, and that would get us up over that 200-ish threshold. And then by 2030, the idea of having 300 students taking an AP course. So we'd love to have that percentage of our student body. Right now, 29% of our students take the course. You'll notice that on our state report card, there's areas in the back of the card. It does not go towards your overall score yet. There's talk that at some point it will, but that includes areas around advanced placement classes, dual enrollment, industry certification, work-based learning, us focusing on the AP right now. 29% puts us about middle ground in our area, with some of our neighboring schools offering a little bit more, a little bit less, and we'd like to continue to stay in the top third of everything that we do, if not even higher. So you can see that there's opportunity for us to continue to grow. And certainly being able to offer those courses already to our students in 9th and 10th grade, that if it's something that aligns for them, that way as juniors and seniors are maybe not taking 6, 7, 8 then, and we can maybe space it out as well as give them an introduction to one early on. What questions do you have around AP?
Rachel, I'm wondering, was the financial, was there any financial reason for students not to take the test?
I would have to talk more specifically with our staff, and Jacob Mason deserves a ton of credit. He's one of our school counselors, and he helps organize the tests. I want to make sure that isn't the case. There's opportunity for students. It's one of the things that we talked about with committee. We don't want that to ever be a deterrent for our students. And so that's something that I need to dig into a little bit more to make sure that's not the case.
Okay.
Because certainly that's not what we strive for with equity. And then we just got to figure out how we're going to make that happen, because that should not be the reason a kid cannot have an opportunity.
The AP College Board does offer a discount for students that are in financial need. So the test is a little bit less, and at times we can provide support for them.
Just piggybacking off of that then, so like, I guess my question would be, where does that money go? So it's $99 per test, you take 3 of them, you're at $300. Does that go towards it, the high school? Does it go to the testing?
It goes,
directly?
College Board and advanced placement are probably doing just fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
They do pay their,
They pay their readers.
their readers.
And we actually have a handful of readers on our own staff. So it's professional development, give back for that, but certainly that is not coming back to us. That's a great question. And so that helps with the facilitation of exams and then people to in fact score them.
I guess I just never really thought about it. Because it's just thinking about it, just to your point, doing well, bank account's looking good, and so many people are saying, well, can you lower it down? You'll get more. It's like, why buy something for $100 with one person when you could do, say, 50 people at 20? You know, I mean, you just kind of do the math to it, and you would see that they would actually do better by lowering, if that is a reason or a hindrance for people not taking, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's what an AP economics class would teach us, right?
This is true.
Micro and macro. We don't offer them yet. Other questions? Thanks.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you, everybody. I don't think we have any correspondence. There is a card, please, for Elisa and her family. If everybody makes sure that they sign that. And if we have nothing else, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.